Swiss members of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, a big welcome to this short presentation on the whisky 53.324 Lighthouse to Smokehouse. Now, for all the peat fans amongst you, as soon as they see the green labels, they get a little smile on their faces, as this is an unmistakable sign that we will find some peat and some smoke in the whisky. The 53.324 Lighthouse to Smokehouse is a very typical Islay whisky, was distilled in 2011 and was bottled at 8 years of age. It has been matured all its life in a first fill bourbon hogshead. So saying that, I guess we can be quite reassured that we're going to find a very fresh, very straightforward and quite peated whisky. Looking at the cask number 324 is also one of the most appreciated whiskies of the society by the society members, as up to now already 324 casks have been bottled by the society. Now, if we visit smws.com and we go under distilleries, we can find out that behind the distillery code 53, there is the distillery Carlisle. It was first bottled by the society in 1988. When we looked at the new makes DNA, flavors that we can expect from Carlisle are campfire smoke, citrus fruits, seaweed, clean and straightforward whiskey. If you want to compare now different peatiness and different DNA new makes, well, then we might be able to say that Ardbeg in a comparison would be slightly lighter, a bit more earthier and salty. We would have, on the other hand, Laphroaig that has this very medicinal, this iodine note in it. We will then have Lagavulin that is a rather heavy, rather oily whiskey. And then, as already said, Carlisle with its more campfire, citrusy, seaweedy notes. Well, I hope you have your bottle of Lighthouse to Smokehouse open and poured your first dram. I don't think you need to approach the glass too closely to your nose to already smell this very beautiful, very nice smoke and peat around the glass and going up your nostrils. The tasting panel has, like usually, put down their notes, what they did find in it, and you can go through and you will find pretty much all of the very classic notes that we expect in a Carlisle of this age. I had the impression that if I added a couple of drops of water, this Carlisle became even more classic than it already is at cask strength. And especially for the ones that have already visited the island, I guess they can agree with me and they will get maybe very nice memories by reading the very last sentence saying, "We watched waves crash against the seaweed-covered rocks beneath the lighthouse, illuminated by a glowing sun as it kissed the Hebridean horizon." Looking a bit facts and figures, the distillery that was founded 1846. It's close to Port Askeg, and here you can see where exactly it is located. It is located on the other side facing the Isle of Jura, as we can see slightly later. The distillery was majorly renovated in 1972 to 1974, and since is the biggest operational distilleries by quantity on the Isle of Islay. It belongs today to the world-leading producer of Scotch malt whisky, Diageo. It came through Distillers Company Limited, 1927, already a first conglomerate of various distilleries, via UD, 1987, and then, in the case of Carlisle, joined Diageo in 1999. The distillery itself is probably not the most beautiful, the most exciting to visit and to look at least not from the outside. But then when you get a bit closer, especially to the still house, here a picture from the outside. Here again, we see one of the stills still from the outside. But then if you have the luck to visit the islet on a beautiful sunny day and you can go inside, then never forget to have a look in between the stills over the sea, and you will see on the other side the Paps of Jura, these two mountains that are on the Isle of Jura. Beautiful views, and this will get you mind traveling. Talking about Cowl Isle is also always a bit talk about peat and smoke. And here, please welcome Jan. Jan is a peat cutter. He cuts little bricks of peat. He keeps them at home in his garage where he dries them, and he uses them to heat his house. Obviously, it can also use, in our case, our main interest is to use the peat in drying the barley. Now, to give you an idea, the more smoke we want to develop, or the different types of smoke and the different types of peat aromas we wanted to develop, has also something to do whether the peat is very dry, very compact or not. And this will have an influence on the various styles you can produce. Now, finding a malting on Islay to visit and to see is quite difficult. So I have allowed myself to use here a couple of pictures taken at Springbank in Campbelltown, just to quickly walk you through the process. So here we can see the peat smoke coming out of the chimney. The start is always with a classic fire. And here we had John, who just started up the first peat fire to start peating his malted barley. So you can see there's a lot of smoke around everywhere. It's a very hard job if you do that by hand, and so it's understandable why many distilleries prefer to buy the already malted and peated barley from big malting companies. Here at Springbank, they still do it by hand. So imagine within 48 hours, 3 shifts will have to open the fire hole every 10 minutes, shovel by hand new peat into the fire, close it back up. You have 10 minutes break and then back on. It's very, very hot. It's smoky and it's very, very hard work. Then we go back to Islay. Here is a little blackboard scene at Ardbeg that explains the different peat compounds and its consecutive sensitory attributes. So again, you can see they are all phenols that will be transmitted, but depending what kind of phenol will also have a different taste or will create different flavors in your whiskey. It can be carbolic, it can be musty, you can have even sweet aromas, we can have very spicy clove, cinnamon aromas, you can have meaty, smoky aromas, etc. So peat is not equal peat. Different variations, different new make spirits can then create different sensations when you try your whiskey. Now let's have a little wander around the Isle of Islay, and by arriving you will obviously take the ferry. You will have beautiful views of the island here, a very classic day, low cloud hanging, quite dark, but then beautiful green island, very, very nice and tidy villages, like you see several of them around the island. But then it's also historically a very rich island. Here you can see a Celtic cross, probably the oldest Celtic cross you can find anywhere in Scotland. And to get there, you pass Ardbeg, and then you continue on the road. When you think you're lost, you still continue, and then eventually you will find the cemetery, and you can then go and see in nature this beautiful Celtic stone cross. Now, to finish off this presentation, of course, a single track road with some sheep. Obviously, you see a lot of sheep all across Scotland, but I always have the impression that on Islay you even see more than anywhere else. So please, if you visit, drive carefully so there are no casualties. And then we're gonna finish off our little wander around the island, not with a picture from the Caribbean, but with a picture from Mackay Bay on Islay. And as you can see, beautiful white sand beaches, and I am sure the ones amongst you that have ever visited the island can now easily take the glass of this 53.3.24 in their hand, have a little sip, close the eyes, and then I'm sure that the journey will start in your head. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful, very classic Islay whiskey as much as I did, and I wish you a lot of pleasure continuing sipping on this slightly smoky dram whilst you travel around your head.